If you play Goblin decks at MTG, just stop.
Welcome to some truly fascinating sources. Break them down and give you the absolute core knowledge.
Yep. Our goal is to get you, our listener, really informed, maybe hit you with some surprising facts, and hopefully keep you hooked along the way.
So if you're tuning in, especially if you're into strategy games, you probably know Magic, the Gathering.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just some card game, right? It's always revered as this game of massive intellectual depth.
Totally. Strategic brilliance, complex math, it's all in there.
It's seen as this mental test, Quick thinking, adapting, predicting moves. It demands a lot.
Absolutely. It's got this reputation for needing serious brain power, serious foresight. That's the standard view, the bedrock idea.
And it's not just players saying that, is it? There's actual research backing this up.
Exactly. The idea of MTG being an intellectual game is, well, pretty established. You've got researchers like Watanabe and Marr back in 2014.
Right. They found it influences intelligence, strategy, stats.
Precisely. They confirmed it's like a workout for your brain. And even earlier, Newton and Badu in 2005, they went further.
What did they say?
They basically said intelligence is the most crucial thing for doing well in Magic, only beaten by having, well, lots of money to buy cards.
Wow.
According to them, yeah. So the bar is set really high, both in the community and academically, for what this game asks of players.
What if there was one specific type of deck, one group of players, that just completely bucks that trend? Like, stands in total contrast to everything we just said?
Yeah, that's the core question here.
Today we're diving headfirst into this absolutely unique academic article. You haven't seen anything like this. It kind of shakes things up.
It really does. The main source we're looking at was published pretty recently, 2022. It's in the International Journal of Social Behavior and Psychological Research.
And the title, it doesn't exactly mince words, does it?
Not at all. It's called Goblin Players Generally Show Lower Levels of IQ Ratings Than Average Magic the Gathering Players. Just straight out there.
And the authors, you mentioned their affiliations are something else.
Oh, you are going to love this. Get ready. First author, LM, Half-a-Goblin-Hater.
Wait, Half-a-Goblin-Hater?
Seriously. From the section of Mental Health Care and Gaming Research, Institute of Medical Biometry and Statistics. Sounds normal so far.
Uh-huh.
Faculty of Why Goblin Decks Suck Ass, Tolarian Academy.
Hey, hold on. The Faculty of Why Goblin Decks Suck Ass. Did I hear that right?
You heard it perfectly right. It's printed right there in the paper.
Wow, okay. That tells you a lot about the perspective here, doesn't it? I mean, that's a level of academic honesty I wasn't prepared for. Groundbreaking, even.
It absolutely sets a tone. And the second author keeps it going. T, Kill Them All.
Kill them all. Okay, and their affiliation.
From the Institute of Bioengineering and Cybernetics, Faculty of Warfare Application with Non-Intelligent Life Forms, Grid Academy.
Warfare application with non-intelligent life forms.
Okay. The gloves are off in this paper.
Completely off, but here's the thing. Despite these, let's call them distinctive affiliations and author names, the paper itself, it follows academic structure, it cites psychological theory, gameplay analysis, proper references. It's this wild mix of formal research and intense personal opinion baked right in.
So our mission today is clear. We need to unpack the absolutely extraordinary claims in this, frankly, revolutionary paper.
Yeah, dig into how he did it, what they found.
Exactly. We're going deep into their methods. We're going to scrutinize these just mind-numbing findings and try to understand their conclusions. Conclusions that are, let's be honest, pretty provocative.
Extremely provocative. But they present them as being backed by the data. Right.
Conclusions about the players who choose Goblin decks. We'll look at the data they present on IQ, strategy, math skills, even how they do in tournaments.
A whole package.
Our goal is to give you a full picture of what this paper is claiming about this. And honestly, how it pretty much turns our understanding of player types upside down. This is big.
And this goes beyond just Magic cards. This research, it hits on bigger themes that matter everywhere.
Like what?
Well, like how our own biases, maybe stereotypes, can shape how we see entire groups of people.
Okay, yeah.
And how you can apply psychological theories, academic stuff, to real-world communities like gamers. And it even makes you question what intelligence or strategy really means in a specific context, like a competitive game.
That's a really good point. It's about getting smart fast, getting those aha moments.
Exactly. Understanding the clash between perception and, well, what these authors claim is reality.
Yeah.
And doing it without getting lost in the details. This paper, it feels like a major moment for the Magic scene. Like it's finally putting numbers on some uncomfortable ideas.
It's definitely laying something bare. It's transformative, no question.
Okay, let's get into the meat of it. Section 1. We've established the baseline. Magic is seen as a super intellectual game, right? Brainy, strategic, math heavy.
Yep, that's the consensus. It demands serious cognitive horsepower.
And we mentioned the academic support for this. Watanabe and Marr, Newton and Bood.
Right, they scientifically linked MTG play to intelligence and strategy. Newton and Bood even ranking intelligence above money for success. It sets a really high standard for players.
Okay, so the game demands brains. Enter the Goblins. This is where the paper we're looking at just drops an absolute bombshell.
It really does. They call it the peculiar case of Goblin decks.
And their core idea right from the start.
That this one group, the Goblin Players, they rigorously violate all known and broadly recognized assumptions about skill, money, and crucially, intelligence in Magic.
Rigorously violate. Strong words. It's not just saying they're different and saying they fundamentally break the mold.
And the language they use and the sources they pull in, it's incredibly direct, almost aggressive.
Give us some examples. What kind of supporting stuff do they cite?
Well, they quote Nassif from 2009, literally saying, if you play Goblin decks at MTG, just stop.
Wow. Just stop. Okay.
And then Nakamura, Dizani, and Saito in 2006, even harsher. Only idiots would play Goblin decks. And they called the whole Goblin strategy equally laughable.
Only idiots. I mean, the spelling error is almost poetic there, isn't it? But seriously, that's intense.
It is, and the paper's own keywords, things like brain dead, stupid, goblin suck ass, where is my lightning bolt?
Where is my lightning bolt as a keyword? That's amazing. It's like they captured the pure frustration of playing against, or maybe as, goblins.
It paints a picture, doesn't it? A wonderfully frank, unfiltered picture.
But here's the puzzle they set out to solve, right? Despite all this, despite everyone apparently thinking these decks are terrible and the players are, well, challenged.
Right, despite the universal scorn.
These decks keep showing up in big tournaments.
Precisely. That leads directly to their main research question. What are the common features of Goblin players that explain this obviously bad deck choice?
And they use a specific psychological theory to frame this.
Yes, they bring in self-categorization theory, SCT. It's a pretty standard social psychology framework.
Okay, SCT. Remind us what that's about.
Basically, it says people join or identify with groups based on shared characteristics they see in that group and in themselves. We categorize ourselves.
So how did these visionary researchers at the Tolarian Academy apply that idea to Goblin players? This seems like the key theoretical leap.
They tie it directly to the game's own lore about goblins. They cite McCabe, Maher, and Turtenwald from '97, who described MTG goblins as brainless, stupid, suicidal, aggressive, impulsive, and above all, stupid.
Above all, stupid. Got it. So the in-game goblins are defined by not being smart.
Exactly. So the authors summarize, the lack of intelligence can be summarized as the defining feature for goblins.
Okay, makes sense based on the lore.
Therefore, using SCT, they hypothesize that this lack of intelligence is the likely dimension of players' self-categorization. It's the connection between the player and the tribe they choose.
So players pick goblins because they subconsciously, or maybe consciously, identify with this stupid characteristic. Unlike, say, elf or merfolk players who might see themselves mirrored in those tribes' perceived intelligence or grace.
That's exactly the hypothesis. They explicitly expected to find significantly lower intelligence levels among Goblin tribe players. They see it as the common thread explaining what they call the players' dreadful every life choices that lead them to play goblins, while so many other obviously and doubtlessly better alternatives were open for them.
Dreadful every life choices. Wow. The conviction is just dripping from the page. It's not just a hypothesis, it feels like a preordained conclusion they're setting out to prove with data. A truly bold move in academia.
It absolutely is. The confidence is remarkable.
Okay, so they have this incredibly bold, almost revolutionary hypothesis. Goblin players choose goblins because they identify with a lack of intelligence, and this explains their objectively poor deck choice. How on earth did they test this? The methodology must be something special.
They used a pretty standard design, actually, despite the wild topic. A two-group parallel controlled trial conducted right there at the Tolarian Academy in the Institute of Medical Biometry and Statistics, which adds, a layer of scientific credibility.
Two groups. So Goblin players versus
non-Goblin deck players. But they broke down the non-Goblin group further.
Into what?
Into the main competitive archetypes: aggro, combo, and control. The authors specifically mentioned that these are the types Goblin decks strongly try to be associated with.
So, 4 groups total. Goblins, aggro, combo, control. Allows for fine-grained comparison.
Exactly. And they didn't just look at current players. They added a historical dimension.
Right. You mentioned that, the longitudinal part.
Yep. They analyzed 20 years of background legacy tournament data from 2002 all the way to 2022, looking at win rates, deck construction trends, strategic quality, It gives incredible depth.
20 years. That's a serious commitment to understanding the long-term picture. Really elevates this beyond just a snapshot. Okay, let's talk recruitment. You hinted this was colorful.
Oh, it's fantastic. So first, the sample size calculation. Standard stuff. McCallum et al., 96. They figured they only needed about 8 people per group for statistical power.
Only 8. That seems tiny.
It does, but that was the theoretical minimum based on the expected effect size.
Yeah.
But crucially, they recruited way more than that. They ended up with 143 participants. Shows they were aiming for really robust results.
Good. What about the ethics approval? You said something funny about that.
This is gold. They state they received ethical approval from the university's Ethic Council for unnecessary studies on 2021.
For unnecessary studies, it's actually in the paper.
It's right there. It's like they're acknowledging up front that everyone knows the answer, but they're doing the science anyway. It's brilliant, really.
Utterly brilliant. So where did they find people for this unnecessary but vital research?
The recruitment location is just perfect.
Oh,
The Emergency Center for Bad Deck Building Decisions at the Faculty of Why Goblin Decks Suck Ass.
they actually recruited people at a place called the Emergency Center for Bad Deck Building Decisions.
That's what the paper says. Both Goblin and non-Goblin players were apparently found there. It's almost too perfect.
It really is. And wasn't there an anecdote about people refusing to participate?
Yes, this captures the whole vibe. They screened 150 people. 7 refused. And their reason, quoted verbatim in the paper, was, "Why on earth do you need a study for this? Every sane person in the world knows how stupid you have to be to choose Goblin decks.
Yeah.
F this waste of my time."
Oh my God. That tells you everything about the community perception they were tapping into, doesn't it? Even the people refusing to be in the study confirmed the premise. Incredible.
It really frames the whole endeavor.
Yeah.
So the final count, 143 players. That broke down into 40 actual Goblin deck playing dumbasses. Their words, not mine.
Actual Goblin deck playing dumbasses. Wow, the classification is direct.
Extremely. Then 40 regular aggro players, 14 combo players, and 26 control players. And for the tournament data, they used MtG-top8.com, which is a standard respected source. So the data is solid.
Okay, the setup is rigorous, if unconventionally described. Now the tools, how did they measure IQ, strategy, and math? The names of these scales were something else, right?
They really were. For general intelligence, the IQ stuff, they use the USXX scale.
The USAC scale, okay. Developed by Lecter and Starling, you said.
Lecter and Starling, 2008. Presented as a validated tool despite the memorable name. Perfectly fitting the paper's tone.
Absolutely. And for strategy and statistical knowledge?
That was the N00P40K scale, developed by Vader and Palpatine in 2018.
Vader and Palpatine, okay. And this scale was specifically for gaming.
Yep, designed for capturing elite performance in gaming. Again, tailor-made, it seems.
The names alone are just chef's kiss. USC scale, N00P40K scale. It's like the measurement tools themselves are part of the commentary. Brilliant. What about basic math?
For that, they went surprisingly conventional, but with a twist in the description. They use an 8th grade math exam from the German Federal Ministry of Education and Research.
An actual 8th grade test.
Seems so. Covering basics and probability calculations, as well as fundamental arithmetic and geometric knowledge expected from every decent member of society.
Expected from every decent member of society, setting the bar pretty low there, aren't they? Implying even that might be a hurdle.
That definitely seems to be the implication. They extracted a score from 1 to 15.
Got it. And the tournament data analysis.
They looked at number of decks, number of Goblin decks, win rates, placement, tournament level, pretty standard metrics.
Yeah.
And they crunched all the numbers using IBM SPSS, using standard statistical tests, t-tests, ANOV, post-hoc tests, chi-square. Rigorous analysis methods applied to this unique data set.
Okay, the moment of truth, the results. This is where this paper really makes its mark, right? Let's start with the big one, IQ. What did the USECC scale find when comparing Goblin players to everyone else?
Prepare yourself. The paper states it plainly. A clear difference between Goblin players and the other players clearly meets the eye. It wasn't subtle.
Clearly meets the eye. Okay, how clear? Give us the numbers from table 1. This is huge.
It's genuinely shocking. Remember, the authors note the average human IQ is around 100. The non-Goblin players in the study all cluster nicely around that. Actually, quite a bit higher on average.
Right, aggro, control, combo players were.
Aggro averaged 119.25 IQ. Control averaged 118.00. Combo averaged 118.50, all with standard deviations around 14-15 points, showing some normal variation.
Okay, so typical, even slightly above average, intelligent gamers. Now,
The Goblin players,
I mean IQ, 65.71.
65.71.
65.71. And get this, The standard deviation was tiny, only 2.75.
Whoa. So not only incredibly low on average, but they were all tightly clustered together at that low level.
Exactly. Very little variation. A consistent pattern across the entire Goblin player group they tested. The difference isn't just noticeable, it's a chasm.
A mean IQ of 65. That's clinically significant territory, isn't it? Over 30 points below the general population average and a staggering 50-plus points lower than every other Magic player type they measured.
It's a massive difference, truly profound.
This is absolutely groundbreaking for understanding gamer psychology. It puts hard numbers on a stereotype, validating it in a way that's almost uncomfortable, but undeniably scientific based on their data. Was it statistically significant, though, or just a weird sample? Oh, it was highly significant. The ANOVA test gave a p-value of less than 0.001.
P less than 0.001, so less than a 1 in 1,000 chance this happened randomly.
Pretty much zero chance it was random, according to the stats. And the effect size, huge. The adjusted R-squared was 74%.
74%, meaning almost 3/4 of the variation in IQ scores they saw could be statistically linked to whether someone played goblins or not.
That's what the number implies. It's an incredibly strong statistical link.
And the specific comparisons, goblin versus aggro, goblin versus control.
All significantly different. Goblin players scored, on average, 53 points lower than aggro, 52 points lower than combo, 53 points lower than control, all with p-values less than 0.001.
But crucially, what about the differences between aggro, combo, and control players?
No significant difference at all. They were statistically indistinguishable from each other in terms of IQ in this study. P-values were super high, like 0.84 to 0.94.
So the finding is laser focused. It's specifically the goblin players who are drastically different. This isn't just noise, it's a clear, statistically validated signal. This data is genuinely transformational. It confirms, with numbers, what might have just been whispers or jokes before. The authors nailed it.
They absolutely did. According to their results, the magnitude of that IQ difference alone is just staggering.
Okay, so the IQ findings are, frankly, mind-blowing. But what about applying that intelligence? Strategic thinking, the core of Magic. Did the N00P 40K scale show a similar gap?
Yep, another clear difference, as the paper puts it. The strategic thinking scores mirrored the IQ results in terms of the pattern.
Lower scores for Goblin players again.
Significantly lower. Let's look at the means. Aggro players averaged around 29,000 on the scale. Control players around 28,500. Combo players actually scored highest, around 32,700.
Okay, so those are the baseline scores for normal competitive players and the Goblin players.
Average score, 18,117.
18,000. Compared to high 20s and 30s, that sounds low. How is that scale interpreted?
Ah, yes, the interpretation is key. According to the scale's creators, Vader and Palpatine, remember, scores below 20,000 are officially categorized as abysmal.
Abysmal. They actually use the word abysmal.
That's the official classification according to the paper's footnote for that scale. Scores between 20-30K are normal, 30-35K good, and above 35K very good.
So the average Goblin player, scoring just over 18,000, falls squarely into the abysmal category for strategic thinking.
According to this scale and these results, yes, abysmal.
Wow. Again, the bluntness is remarkable, but it's tied directly to their data. The term fits the number, statistically significant again.
Highly significant. F statistic was 10.4 U, P less than 0.001 again. The effect size, adjusted R-squared, was 0.48, which is considered a medium to large effect, so a substantial difference.
And the specific comparisons? Goblin versus the others?
Same pattern. Significant negative differences between Goblin players and all other types. They scored between 10,000 and 14,500 points lower, on average. All highly significant statistically.
And again, no difference among aggro, combo, and control.
Correct. P-values were 0.99 across the board for those comparisons. Once again, the deficit in strategic thinking, as measured by this scale, seems entirely concentrated within the Goblin player group. It's an incredibly consistent finding across different cognitive domains.
Abysmal strategic thinking to go along with the significantly lower IQ. The picture being painted here is incredibly stark and remarkably consistent.
And it doesn't stop there. The next piece was basic mathematical ability.
Right, the 8th grade math test, the one measuring knowledge expected from every decent member of society. How did our groups fare on that?
Prepare for another shocker. Again, a clear difference in results described by the authors as shockingly low for Goblin players.
Okay, lay the numbers on us. Mean scores out of 15.
Aggro players averaged 9.38. Control players averaged 9.00. Combo players averaged 10.00, all comfortably above the middle point.
All right, respectable scores, passing presumably, and the Goblin players.
Mean score. 3.71.
3.71 out of 50.
0.71, with a standard deviation of 1.50.
Okay, that seems incredibly low. What was needed to actually pass this 8th grade test?
The crucial detail from the footnote. 5 points are required to pass the test.
5 points to pass, and the average Goblin player scored 3.71.
Meaning the average Goblin player in their sample failed a standard 8th grade math exam.
They failed basic 8th grade math. Wow, that is genuinely shockingly low, as the author said. It suggests a real deficit in fundamental quantitative reasoning, which you'd think would be absolutely critical for a game like Magic, calculating odds, mana curves, combat math.
You would absolutely think so. It has another layer to the findings, suggesting the issues might be quite foundational.
Statistical significance. Let me guess.
You guessed it. Significant main effect, F equals 8.27, P.001. TD effect size, again, adjusted R squared to 0.41.
And the post hoc tests.
Same story. Goblin players scored significantly lower than aggro players by 5.7 points, control players by 5.3 points, and combo players by 6.3 points.
And no difference between aggro, combo, control.
None whatsoever. P-values between 0.84 and 0.99. It's the same pattern repeated across IQ, strategic thinking, and basic math. An incredibly consistent profile emerges for the Goblin players in this study, setting them dramatically apart from all other player types measured. The rigor is impressive.
Okay, let's just recap these absolutely staggering results coming out of the Tolarian Academy. We have Goblin players compared to aggro, control, and combo players showing IQ scores over 50 points lower on average, strategic thinking scores rated as abysmal, and average math skills below the passing threshold for an 8th grade exam.
That's a summary of the individual assessments. An incredibly consistent and, frankly, damning profile based purely on their data.
It's unprecedented, but the ultimate test is the real world, right? Do these profound differences measured in the lab using these uniquely named scales and basic tests actually translate to performance in actual Magic tournaments? Does it matter when the cards are on the table?
That was the final crucial validation step. They looked at 5 years of tournament data from MtGTopy8.com. They used cheese square statistics to see if there was a link between playing goblins and actually winning tournaments.
And did the cognitive deficits predict real-world failure?
Unequivocally. The paper states, for each year, a statistically significant association between goblin deck choice and tournament win rate could be identified.
So year after year, playing goblins was statistically linked to losing more.
Essentially, yes.
Right.
They phrase it as, the likelihood of winning a tournament was significantly reduced by the difference of being a goblin deck player instead of literally any other deck type player.
Literally any other deck type player. So the individual test results weren't just abstract numbers. They directly predicted lower success rates in actual competitive environments.
Exactly. It closes the loop. The lower IQ, the abysmal strategy, the failed math test. It all manifests as significantly lower win rates in real tournaments over a 5-year period. It's a complete picture, from cognitive tests to real-world outcomes. This paper truly provides a comprehensive, data-driven explanation for the observed phenomenon of Goblin deck performance. It's transformational work.
So, summing it all up, what are the author's big takeaways? They've presented this mountain of consistent, statistically significant data showing Goblin players lagging far behind on IQ, strategy, math, and tournament wins. What's their final word? They must have some strong conclusions.
Oh, they absolutely do. And they state them with the same directness we've seen throughout. Their main conclusion, their initial hypothesis, was primarily supported.
The hypothesis that lack of intelligence is the defining feature, the self-categorization link.
Precisely. They reiterate that a clear difference was found across all measures: IQ, strategy, math setting, Goblin players apart from aggro, combo, and control players.
And they highlight that failure on the math test again.
They do. They emphasize that Goblin players perform significantly worse than their peers up to the level, that the average Goblin deck player would not even pass the chosen exam chosen for our assessment for mathematical proficiency. It's a point they really hammer home.
Driving home the foundational nature of the deficit, and they connect this back to the tournament results.
Yes, they state the clear and significant negative association between player deck type, Goblin or not, and tournament win rate corroborates the individual findings and echoes previous reports, but now with their added layer of cognitive data.
So their final answer to the research question, what's the common feature, is
their definitive conclusion. The predominantly common feature among Goblin deck players is a lack of intelligence, strategic knowledge, and basic understanding of mathematical and probability principles. And they explicitly state these features mirror the respective stereotypical in-group archetype associated with Goblins as being stupid and lacking of intelligence.
So self-categorization theory validated. The players, according to this data, seem to embody the key characteristic of the tribe they choose. It's a stunning confirmation of their initial framework. This really does feel like a landmark study for MTG.
Based on their presented data and conclusions, it certainly positions itself as one.
Now, even with such incredibly strong, consistent findings, did the authors acknowledge any weaknesses, any limitations to this groundbreaking, potentially field-defining work, or suggest where research should go next?
They offer the standard academic caveat that the study, like others before it, still lacked the statistical power to generate generalizable results with sufficient external validity, despite the large effect sizes found. Basically, more research is needed for broad generalization.
Okay, that's standard academic humility. But their suggestion for future research, that wasn't quite so standard, was it?
Not quite. This is where their unique voice shines through again. They call for future studies with larger sample sizes across different cultural backgrounds.
Yeah.
Okay, standard so far. In order to find additional supporting evidence that, in fact, Goblin deck players are just fucking stupid.
They actually wrote "just fucking stupid" in the formal conclusion and call for future research section of a published academic paper.
It's printed right there. The final sentence of the discussion future research section. No ambiguity, no attempt to soften it.
That is breathtakingly bold. It cements their position with absolute unfiltered conviction. The passion behind this research is undeniable. And the final conclusion section, the summary, just as direct.
If anything, even more so. Section 5, conclusions, delivers the final, unsparing verdict.
What does it say?
Goblin deck players should go home and reconsider their live choices. However, this paper has also provided evidence that this action would be as highly ineffective as a Goblin ringleader, since these players generally do lack the fundamental intelligence necessary to successfully think through their reconsideration of their live choices.
Oh my goodness. They literally conclude that Goblin players lack the fundamental intelligence even to reconsider their choices effectively. That is absolutely brutal. But based on their IQ data, it's almost a logical endpoint of their findings, isn't it?
It follows the thread of their results to its ultimate stark conclusion.
Yeah.
And even the acknowledgments and conflict of interest statements add a final layer of color.
What do they say there?
We would like to thank every non-Goblin deck player to have participated voluntarily and free of charge in our study.
Just the non-Goblin players. And the conflict of interest.
Yes.
Especially not the one who was inexplicably lost to a Goblin deck some time ago.
Incredible. So they basically admit or heavily imply that a personal frustrating loss to a Goblin deck might have been part of the motivation.
Yeah.
The transparency is just off the charts. It adds this whole human emotional layer to this rigorous data-heavy study.
Amazing.
Well,
This deep dive has been something else. Truly revealing.
claims backed by surprisingly detailed, consistent, and statistically significant analysis across IQ, strategy, math, and tournament wins.
Absolutely. The data, as presented, paints an astonishingly clear picture. And you have to say, this research feels like a major contribution, maybe even a turning point for how the Magic community understands itself. It's put numbers, hard data behind perceptions that were maybe just jokes before.
It really has. And it forces you, the listener, to think, right, when you see research like this so conclusive, so stark.
Fascinating how their passion, their almost palpable disdain for Goblin decks is right there alongside the p-values and standard deviations. It doesn't hide. It's part of the package.
And that transparency, in a way, is part of its impact. You see the data and you see the viewpoint driving the inquiry. It's unusually honest in that regard.
Yeah, it really is. It's this vivid example of how strong opinions, things maybe rooted in community observation or even frustration, can be rigorously investigated using scientific tools. And sometimes, as seems to be the case here, the data dramatically supports those initial strong opinions.
It certainly seems to align here. The consistency across all measures is hard to ignore.
So here's a final thought to chew on, building on all this amazing, if controversial, work. Beyond Magic, what does it mean when research uses such direct, maybe even insulting language, yet presents compelling, statistically significant results?
Yeah. How do we, as people trying to understand the world, weigh that? How do we separate legitimate scientific discovery, which this paper, based on its methods and results, arguably presents, from the potentially biased framing, especially when the findings are so profound and consistent?
It's a challenge, right? Differentiating truly objective inquiry from research driven by a strong desire to prove a specific pre-existing point, even if that point turns out to be statistically validated by the study itself. This paper sits right at that fascinating intersection.
It definitely gives you a lot to think about regarding science, bias, and how we perceive different groups.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us on this truly remarkable deep dive. We'll see you next time.